hear that guy speak, it just is another reminder of just the trouble we're in. So, welcome to Tinfoil Hat Club. Scott Hensler. Julie will be with us in a moment. I'm going to be going over a couple things here just to set the stage for tonight. But I'm also going to encourage you to go get a pen and paper and take some notes with what Julie's got. Now, I, coming from the technical world, have an interest in technology from the past. I think the things that took place during World War II for development of weapons and guidance systems and making sure that that torpedoes don't porpoise and they go on their target and all the different things that they did for the time and the period that they did, because you had to get things together quick, was absolutely incredibly amazing. Now, I believe that a lot of the technology was already in place and was not, revealed to the public. But one of the things that was incredible was the fact of materials. See, today we have a lot of materials that we can work with that give us the ability to assemble devices that are specific. And back then they didn't. Basically you had steel. Aluminum was on its way up. There was a time aluminum was actually a rare metal. And the capstone on the Washington Monument that was dedicated to God, that the Bushes made sure they took down, was made of aluminum, and it was considered a precious metal back then. So thank you, Bush, for taking that down, rat. So my point is that these wars are one of the reasons we have the technology that we have. And right now, the war being waged is against you and me. So the technology that they have developed over the years, which a lot of it comes from fallen angel technology, I believe that Tesla and the basis of General Electric and some of the others, that's where this information came from, because many of them were occultists and they were actually speaking and necromancing and getting information. And so here we are with technologies, as I mentioned, that I'm going to be talking about on Tuesday. I'm really going to go into depth on psychotronics. I may go 2 hours, I don't know. And I'm not even near done with what I want to lay out, but I've got enough already that'll blow your socks off. And so when we look at World War II and we look at the radar that was developed, we were way ahead of the time compared to others, which by the way, was part of the British effort, giving us the technology to go into higher frequencies, which allowed microwave, which allowed radar to be much more pinpoint accuracy with different variables, such as land movement as well as air and sea and water and stuff. So when we look at Pearl Harbor, we have to wonder what in the world happened there. Now, you need to understand that Pearl Harbor had just received one of the new state-of-the-art radars that was functioning but was ordered to be turned off. Now, the fleet that had just relocated there from San Diego, that there were several admirals that were, you had your different categories of the ships. And not all of them were in agreement to keep everything bound within the harbor. And so we had those that disobeyed orders and actually took the ships out because they were already concerned about the Japanese. Now, Franklin Roosevelt was not a good guy. He was one of the New World Order. He was one of those that, again, was most likely probably thought his spirit would transfer into someone today. So even though he thought, you would have thought, well, why would he be concerned? Because there were so many more years and that he wouldn't be a part of it. But that's not how that worked, or at least how they think it works. So they intentionally allowed Pearl Harbor to be bombed. The information's been out a very, very long time now. Everything's laid out that this was a false flag scenario. This was intent to draw us into World War II for the Japanese and also for Britain. By the way, the English knew about Pearl Harbor was going to be bombed too. We weren't the only ones. And so we were set up. And so innocent men, women, children were slaughtered in order to fulfill an agenda for the New World Order. Now, that was December 7th, 1941. And when we look at what Reagan said in 1987, trust but verify, what he was saying is he didn't trust anybody, but he was going to give the look of it and then just verify it, to make sure that things were as they were. Well, when we look at things, we find out they're not as they are. So the problem that we have is that we have those who believe that the media, those things of NBC, CBS, ABC, and all the others, that they're telling us the truth. Fox Network, all of this junk, CNN, and every bit of it is nothing but propaganda. It is nothing but a psyop, and it's brainwashing. It literally is there to keep us in bondage. And I've mentioned before that the churches are basically doing the same thing because the true word of God is not being spoken. I'm sorry. If you only show fractions or discuss fractions and teach fractions of it and not the whole picture, then you don't get the whole picture of God and what we've been called to do. And I'll leave it at that. Now, I also want to mention that there's information that even Normandy, D-Day, those things, Omaha Beach, that this was an intentional slaughter as a sacrifice. The times, the date, the way they set it up, that there were other ways to do this. When you look at the numbers on the probability of how many will die, there were other things that could have been done. And so I have to keep it in my mind and spirit that yes, this probably was a blood sacrifice. Now, Vietnam, we look at those things of Tonga, Gulf of Tonga, the USS Maddox, that Johnson basically said, I want that GD boat at the bottom of the ocean. He wanted to make sure that we got pulled into Vietnam, so those poor men on that ship were victimized by the New World Order. And then, of course, we had 60,000 young men that lost their lives during that disgusting, horrible war that was nothing more than a CIA drug movement. And the Johnsons and the Bushes, they're all part of this, ladies and gentlemen. And then we get into the Gulf War. Again, bringing in the Bush, talking about the New World Order in Iraq, coming from 9/11. And then we see in several movies, Meteor, 1979, Godzilla, Gremlins, 1984, The Crow, 1994. Of course, we all know about Terminator. We all remember the Simpsons cartoons, and even the famous series of shows, the movies, Back to the Future, all showed us that 9/11 was coming. And then we see Rockefeller with his picture on Time magazine, that presenting the World Trade Towers, that his watch was at 9/11. So everything that has taken place in the past, why in the world would we believe anything of today and the future? Because what they want to do is, 9/11 was the Patriot Act, took away a tremendous amount of our freedoms, brought in the Department of Homeland Security. Now you can't even fly without being treated like a criminal. But yet the borders are wide open, and everything in the world that is here to destroy us is coming over. So this stinking thinking, this insanity that is out there, that we've been exposed to it so long that we think this is just the way that it is. But when you go through deliverance, when you've had these witchcraft spirits cast out of you and mind control and get the truth sets you free. And so when you find out and realize the conspiracy that has been in place for a very long time, you start to see the world differently. Now, Julie's got an awful lot of information she's going to be bringing out, and I want you to know that through her eyes, that what she has seen over the years, what she has experienced, what she has learned, she has a trained eye. And so when she sees something and says something, I take note. Now, for instance, the Sandy Hook, okay? There's lawsuits over that now because of it being a hoax. That particular school was shut down long before that thing even happened because of asbestos. And we see like the Aurora theater shooting, okay? Both Sandy Hook and Aurora were streets on a map in the movie Dark Knight. So again, the movies were telling us what was going on. So all media is basically a psyop. All media is controlled opposition. And I'll tell you what, again, if anyone is just going to take everything that happens, like Orlando, and even the Boston Marathon, if you type Boston Marathon hoax, you will see the most incredible documentation and pictures showing that the actors that they were using, and then they had them later, the ones that supposedly survived, that remained and everything else, and then they show them later being heroes and everything. They're not even the same people. And when you research their names and look at their names, there's always something occultic about it, and you'll find that they were registered as actors. Because they have their guilds, they have their unions, they have their organizations, and so they register in a pool, and so that stuff's easy to find out. Now, I wanted to mention before I turn it over to her now that I wanted to thank everyone for supporting this ministry. I'm doing my shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and of course we're doing 10 Foil Hat Club on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And the only way that I can stay on the air is through your support, so I thank you for that. I'm going to get back to work and start producing more YouTube videos. I've got a couple things I'm doing here. I finished, taking all the old shows off of Scott Hensler Network, and I put them on gimbaling.com, so hopefully you wouldn't have as much issue trying to listen to them as you do coming off of Blog Talk, and the commercials have been edited about them. And everything can be accessed from scotthensler.org. Now, as I mentioned, next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing a very in-depth teaching on psychotronics, mind control, those things of radio frequency, ELF, and all the things we've been hearing about. Now, in my research, I've obtained a few pieces of equipment. Now, being a ham radio operator, I don't have to go buy the expensive stuff. I can buy, the stuff pennies on a dollar, do a slight modification, or just simply use it for what I do. And I don't have to pay the big bucks for the bug sniffing, those things of monitoring, frequency counters, signal strength meters, directional indicators, those things. And so now I'm going to be scanning everyone that comes into my office for a deliverance if they'll allow me to. So that, because the information I've been seeing, there's a lot more people chipped than I ever thought. And some of the behaviors that I've been seeing, some of the symptoms, some of the demonic activities are actually in parallel with some of the symptoms that comes from this technology. Now, that means that there's a chance that if you've got problems, you may have been in a vehicle accident and taken to a hospital. You may have been incarcerated for drunk driving and did some time in a county jail or something, or something of that matter where you were under care or under the control of the government, and without your knowing, you may have been chipped. And with particular new chips that they have now, they can literally induce into you through the psychotronics every behavior that I deal with in the demonic. And some of it's permanent. Some of it causes permanent organ damage, incontinence and stuff like that. It's just absolutely terrible. So I'm taking this more serious than ever, and I want you to know that we are in a very bad situation. The system is in place via the cell phone towers, And through this technology, they literally have the system capable of making us all sick, even if we don't have chips, and those who do, to get them to do things that they would never do on their own. And this is a terrifying situation. So I am taking this extremely serious, and I am going to move forward as strongly and as best as I can with what I know. Now, bringing you up to date, I come from radio engineering. I come from a technical background. I'm currently an extra class amateur radio operator. I'm active. I stay up on the technology. I've recently taken, within the past couple of years, my test, so I'm not old school anymore. I passed all the new technology, which incorporates satellites and microprocessor controlled transmitters. Okay, so it's something that's part of me. It's always been. So I'm going to use that. Apparently, this isn't by mistake. You know, it's funny. A lot of the equipment that I have, I actually tried to sell it a couple of years ago, and nobody wanted it. And I mean, I was letting it go cheap, and some of it was still in the box. Well, I guess God had a different plan, because now this equipment is actually vital in what I'm going to be doing. And so I am going to be using everything that I have, including a small shop that I've put together, to do what I can. And that means trying to get devices that you can get a hold of yourself to check yourself and even potentially ward off some of the radiation, the symptoms. Now, I've got a little road ahead of me. Anything you can do to support me on that, I appreciate it. Now, I asked the other night that if anyone is being gang-stalked and being terrorized, you know, you're part of that technology because that's part of it, that I'm interested in your blood type. And I got some responses, kind of very little actually, but maybe tonight with bringing this out on this particular show, because what I'm doing is I believe there's a pattern in your blood type. Now, there may be groupings in different states, you know, O negative here, O positive there, but something I believe is amiss with this. And so if you're being gang-stalked, it may not necessarily be because you were in a government agency or in the military or you had a spouse or something like that. You actually may have something physical that they're interested in, and blood is one of them. So if you would, at scott@scotthensler.org, I don't need to have your name, because a lot of emails don't have names. They're just names you picked, to throw on Yahoo or Gmail or something. So I'm just looking for statistics. I'm trying to run the numbers. Anything that can help me out is appreciated. So I'm just bringing that out. But like I said, this is at a critical, serious point, because you need to understand that if even though you've had demons taken out of you, that if you have a chip in you, then you're in a disposition that is not favorable. And so I'm going to do what I can. Now, even the microwave towers, if you don't have a chip, because of the frequencies that they can send out, they can make you sick. They can make you sleepy, lethargic, hard to concentrate. All you want to do is roll up in bed and not get out. Well, if that's the state that you're in, then you're not going to be able to fight. And so this is a tactic to keep the enemy from defending itself. And that enemy, the way that the New World Order sees it, is you and me. And so, which is not the case. In fact, we're being abused. This is crimes against humanity. And this also means that they're doing it to children. And see, that we can't, that can't be tolerated. Adults are one thing, but you start messing with a child, then you're going to wake the sleeping giant. And so I'm looking for the support of those that are willing to help me on this. All right, Julie, hopefully you're on. I know you had some things you had to take care of, but I know you've got a lot of information, so I just kind of set the stage for the fact that the government just flat out lies to us. Everything that we hear is not the truth, and there's an occult nature behind it all. So what do you think of that?
Well, I think I'll repeat what the CIA director said back in the 1960s. He said the CIA will know it has accomplished its job when everything the public believes is a lie. Anybody hear that? We know, the CIA knows, we will know when we have accomplished our job, and that is when the public, everything the public believes is false, is a lie. That was a direct quote from the director of the CIA in the 1960s. I believe it's 68. So, what else do you need to know? Oh, by the way, the director of the CIA now is a very nasty man named John Brennan. John Brennan is a rapist and a child molester and a child rapist and a child murderer. I don't have the numbers in front of me of how many children he's raped and murdered, but John Brennan is also a killer. John Brennan is responsible for being a hitman and going around killing people, and you see that's how he got where he is right now, because he went around murdering people who were on the hit list, and so he got rewarded with the director of the CIA. He was in the news. Tony Perkins, supposed to be some family research council, some biblical Christian garbage crap that monitors Washington. He's a sellout because he's over here promoting John Brennan, the child rapist and child murderer. And, you know, this is the guy that rapes children, and he waits until he's going to have his pleasure, and then he chokes them to death and kills them. You know, that's how he likes to do. But yet this is the man in charge of our CIA. And, you know, none of the people, and by the way, he's not human. He's a hybrid, okay? So he's not even a human being like us. He's a hybrid. So is everybody else in the CIA. So I find
Julie,
it funny.
that goes along with Bush. I mean, Bush was in charge of the CIA at one time, too, and we know what he's all about.
That's right. And he's not human either. And, you know, I think it's really funny because people that don't know anything about this, they will sit there and call you a liar. And you will just bust their bubble because they just believe these people. Let me tell you something, people. If you go back and you read the statement that our own government has made, Henry Kissinger said, we just need another false flag and we can take away their guns. We just need another false flag and we can bring in our new world order. George Bush was the king of saying, new world order, new world order, new world order, new world order, 1,000 points a lie. It's a new world order. It's a big idea. You know, these people are not human. They're hybrids. They are human hybrids and reptilians. Do you understand that? They are reptilians. And they want to take over the world. And for anyone to doubt this stuff, you've got to be an absolute loser. I don't know how you can look at this stuff and not get it. It's in your face. How come the Virginia Tech shooting, what was the girl's name? She was all over the news, and oh my God, she was just so brave, and her name was Allison Parker. Wait a minute. My daughter was wonderful, and I loved her. Ha 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 ha, and it was great. Ha 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 ha. And I lost my daughter in Sandy Hook. Ha 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 ha. Robbie Parker. Well, isn't it coincidental that again, with this latest shooting in Orlando, we have Tiara Parker. Isn't that something, Tiara Parker? And she was shot by a 223 round. Folks, let me tell you something. The woman was getting up in and out of a recliner, shot from the front and came out the back. She was up and down in a recliner, had a skin-tight dress on so you could see every ripple of her flab, and there was not a bandage one underneath it. She got up and down. She lifted her elbow straight up in the air to show Juju Chang, the reporter. By the way, Juju is 1313, by the way. That's in occult. Those are occult numbers, 1313. And that's not even her name. That's what she goes by, okay? So she lifts her arm up, and then she gets up out of this recliner by herself, walks outside, bends over, grabs a trash bag, and with both hands and arms, she's digging through it, pulls out this big black sweater she was wearing, and with both arms, holds it completely out and spreads her arms out like Jesus Christ. Let me tell you something. If you get shot with a .22, you are not going to be moving like that. 3 days after the shooting. Give me a break. My husband was shot with a .38 in the gut. He couldn't move or do anything for 6 months. 6 months, people. 6 months. And she got shot with a .223. And there wasn't no Band-Aid, no nothing. She's fine. Let me tell you, when you take her around, and by the way, she was in a bathroom, he was in the bathroom, and he shot her at point-blank range with a .223 caliber. Let me tell you what I kill with .223. I kill deer with .223, no problem. I can take a deer down at 80 yards with a .223. Bam! Down. Okay? And whenever I go to butcher that deer, where the round entered, all the meat around there I have to cut up and toss because it's completely shell-shocked. Any kind of a weapon has an impact. Any bullet has an impact. A .223 round carries a powerful wallop, and it literally obliterates the flesh all around the bullet wound. And if it would have been at point-blank range, her heart would have stopped. That's the kind of power behind a .223 round. It literally would have shocked her system into complete seizure. She would have been done. And that she didn't die, and she lived, and not only she lived, but she's 3 days later running around like nothing ever happened to her before. So
yeah, Julie, let me remind everyone that's a hyperstatic shock from a 223 because of the velocity. And it's designed, if it didn't hit vital, was that through the shock of the body, just as you mentioned, the meat around where the deer would have been shot, you had to throw it away, that's what takes them down. And so for her to have it remotely in any part of her body would be so devastating that her body would still be in shock 3 days later. Go ahead.
And the swelling would have been so bad that she would have been under, right now, had she truly been shot with a .223 round, she would be sedated in a hospital, unable to speak. She would not be able to breathe, my friends, like inhale and exhale into her chest cavity air without being on morphine, because it would hurt her to even muster a breath if she had been shot with a .223 round. If she had been shot with a .22 round, she'd still be like that. You see, they're counting on the fact that you don't know any better. And most of you don't hunt. And you've never killed anybody, thank goodness. So you don't know what bullets do. You don't understand rounds. You don't know, like a 7.62. You don't know what these things do. You don't understand the hypershock, this hyperstatic shock wave that hits the body and kaboom. And it's like everything in that vicinity is blown. It just completely goes to mush. It is completely gone. She would have lost all her side. Would have been gone. Goodbye, see you. And at that range, she would have lost. She'd have had a hole in her. I mean, a .223 round Scott at close range, she would have had a hole through her the size of a small hamburger at a McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me the stupidity of the human race, because they've taken guns away from people to the point nobody hunts for their food anymore. No one understands anything about weapons, cartridges, any of this stuff, and they know it. They dumbed everybody down. Here, go to Burger King and have it your way. Here, go to Starbucks and get it your... No one ever depends on hunting for their food. It's just people like me. You know, there's a very few of us that's what we eat, it's what we kill. And so they count on people not knowing any better. And by the way, the name Parker is 33 in numerology. And 33, of course, goes back to the highest Illuminati masonry level. Now, they can go higher, but 33 is the highest. That's the Scottish Rite Freemasonry goes up. But this is 33. That's their high number. That's their number. They're in the club. And it's the Black Phoenix and then the 33. And, of course, that's just a mockery of the age that Jesus Christ was crucified, 33. So order out of chaos. So this is what they're doing. And another woman was supposedly shot, and through her arm, and she was giving a television interview, and she had the microphone in her hand. In the arm she got, there was no bandages anywhere, no nothing. She was just sitting there in the hospital, out in a little foyer so they could get the cameras rolling. No bandages, nothing. Next guy was shot twice. 3 days ago, he shot twice. And today he's on national television, walking down the street like no big deal, in street clothes, bebopping around. And he supposedly took 2 rounds at close range with a .223. You folks, you have to understand, this entire thing is a hoax. I want to call Christina out, Christine, whatever your name is. She lost her son, supposedly. He was killed, and he's dead now. Oh, please. Sister, you're the green screen queen. That's what I'm going to call you. The green screen queen. You guys, they have this woman. She was supposedly in the street. And Matt Lauer, the sellout that he is interviewing her in the street. Okay? The woman couldn't muster a tear, but her son was killed, but she couldn't muster a tear. And what does she say when she's trying to make herself cry, which she never did? Can't we do something about these assault weapons? Wait a minute. What just went to the Supreme Court? Whoa. The Supreme Court is deciding on whether to hear an assault weapons ban. She didn't say, what about these guns? They're just killing people. No. Assault weapons. Can't we do something about these assault weapons? Now, she acted like she didn't know nothing. Let me tell you what a treasonous, lying sack of crap she is. Christine, I'm calling you out. You and your husband are in the New World Order. You're a part of the whole thing. I got your bio, lady. I got your husband's bio, and I got your son's bio. I tracked your butt down to Michigan, and I saw film and footage of you in your home doing chin-ups, getting ready to go to the academy for the Michigan State Police, which, by the way, you and your husband are retired from, and both of you were in the New World Order Masons. You're Masons. I already know that you belong to the Masons, and you're both high up, and that you're both retired. State Police from Michigan. And what's on your badge, lady? What's on your badge? The square and compass. I saw it for myself. Michigan State Police. Busted. You are busted, lady. I checked out everything about you. I did a background on you, your husband, and your son. Your son isn't dead. He's not even dead. He's a crisis actor. And you two are Masons, police officers, retired, that were hired to come down there and do what you did. These people are traitors to this country. I did a background on both of those people. And let me tell you what, it is disgusting to the level these people have sunk. I watched her on private video in her home when she talking about how she could do chin-ups and she's the state police and they're looking for this. I watched the whole video, lady. I watched it all. You better yank it if you don't want anybody else to find out who you really are. This is who these people are. See, they can't hide. I found her in Michigan. That's where I found her and her husband, Scott. You talk about duplicitous. She acted like she didn't even know what a gun was on these interviews. Like she's scared of guns.
Well, I noticed, using the word assault weapon. Okay, that's a media implied of the firearm. Okay, that's their term to give it a nasty name. Because just as you mentioned, you use AR-15s even for hunting. So it's not like it's a weapon that was just nothing more than to kill the innocent people. That's what they would like you to believe. This is part of the psyops and the mental that they're putting on everyone. And by injecting these phrases, these terms, I can't tell you how many people say, well, is your gun registered? I said, excuse me? Are your guns registered? Well, why would I register? Well, it's law. No, it isn't. It's not. No, you're watching too much TV. You're seeing stuff from New York. You're seeing from No, there is no gun registration. Now, you may have a state or a city that requires it, but it is not a federal law. And so everyone thinks you need to register your guns, and you don't. Go ahead, Julie.
And that's right. And she was acting like she didn't know what guns were. And I found that, just the way she spoke, and she wasn't crying, but she was trying to act like she was, but there was never a tear the whole interview, like 20-something minutes long. So I thought, and I could tell, this woman's lying through her teeth. She is lying. She mentioned homosexuality, that we all have to get along, Muslims, black people, and assault weapons. So she made sure to plug all four of the pressing things that Obama's been trying to blow out of proportion, right? Black Lives Matter. Well, you know what? So do white lives, people. Stop with your Black Lives Matter, because the white lives matter just as much as yours do. I hate to tell you that, but it's true. And no, I'm not white. I'm American Indian. I'm a First Peoples, First Nation. Okay? They took all my stuff, but you don't see me saying, well, I hate all white people because they took Come on. Stop it. Let's all get real here. She just pushing all those agendas, and I knew she was lying. And I said, I'm going to check this woman out. I'm going to do a background on her. I'm going to find out just exactly who she is. Man, I'm telling you, as soon as her face pulled up and she's Michigan State Police, I went, there you go. There you go. Then her husband, Michigan State Police, and her son. I'm going, oh, you know what? The entire thing, the stories that you heard are all made up. Her son wasn't in that club. Her son didn't die. He wasn't even in there. This is all made-up stories. And did you notice today that they actually gave a list of the people who were killed? And did you notice instead of 50, first it was 49, now it's 50. So there's 50 dead and 53 wounded. That's 103. Take the 0, that's 13. There you go. Illuminati handprint all over it. Now, they said they can only release today, they only could release out of the 50, 33 names. Gee, that number 33 just keeps piling up everywhere. Wait, I'm not done with 33. Let me see. Pulse Club was located where? Orange Avenue. Well, coincidentally, the word orange is 33 in numerology. Imagine that. And what is the Illuminati colors? Black and orange. Imagine that. Oh, and what is their favorite holiday? Oh, that would be Halloween. What are their colors? Black and orange. Imagine that. Let's see. And what was the other street? There was a cross street. What was that? Oh, I remember. Ishtar. Esther. It's called the goddess Ishtar. So when you go look it up, you get Ishtar and you get orange. It was a sacrifice to the goddess Ishtar. Mother Mary, Diana, Sophie, Aphrodite, Venus, whatever, Isis, call her what you want, Semiramis, all the same person. This is amazing to me that the shooting victims, now, I watched a lot of footage, and I had to keep stopping it and going backwards because I wanted to see what was in the background. What was behind these people? Where were they filming? So I had to get a Google overhead so I could map out the buildings. And what I found very odd, I had to go back and look again at the footage, different angles, and what I saw was the people were carrying supposed wounded people out of this building, but when I saw the footage, they were going from down the street past Radio Shack back down to the Pulse. They had wounded people they were carrying from down the street toward the Pulse nightclub where it happened. So as they're going forward toward the nightclub where the thing happened, carrying somebody with supposedly a tourniquet on and a bloody leg, they're carrying this person. They're going toward the nightclub that they supposedly just ran out of. Well, they weren't the only one. There happened to be some others doing this. And I said, whoa, why are they going toward the club that supposedly they just got shot out of? And what are they doing? That's okay. So then I go overhead and I start looking. Wouldn't you know? You get to see pictures. It was a camera crew, and it was the whole thing was green screens and acting studio, the whole thing. And that's where they were filming, and they were doing takes right there. And then I see these guys carrying this picture. Oh, look, it's a tourniquet, and they got blood. And he had red shoes on, orange red shoes. So there you go. And as soon as they get down, as soon as they went, cut, they said, roll them. And they go by and they go, cut. Right when they do that, the two guys carrying the guy stop. They set him down, and then they start jumping around and playing and doing all this stuff that takes over. Now the guy walks off. Nothing wrong with him. You know, you guys, you shouldn't let that stuff stay on the air and on the internet, stupid, because you know we're going to find it. Not all of us are gullible. So there was nothing wrong with the guy. They put him down, and he went off skipping along and doing his thing. I thought that was amazing. And so I'm thinking, there's all these 33s keep coming up. So I went, they interviewed a guy named Louis Bourbano. So I thought to myself, well, you know what? I'm going to go look this guy up. Let me check this guy out. So I went and did a background check on him. Luis Bourbano. Is that really your name? Because you are an actor. You got your acting profile. Man, good picture, though. Hey, I like it. Digging it. This guy's an actor, you guys. Okay, somebody else. Another guy, Cassiano. Isn't that amazing that his last name happens to equal 3? How is that? 2 plus 1 is 3. 21, 2 plus 1 is 3. I can't imagine how these numbers keep popping up in my favor. It's always, and by the way, 21 is also a symbol for 3 times 7. That's 3 sevens, okay? 777, blackjack, okay? That's also what that means. And like I said, check out the Cult of 777 with Aleister Crowley, and you'll completely understand that. And by the way, the address was 1912 Orange Avenue, and 1912 in numerology is 13. 13 Orange Avenue, and 33 is what orange it stands for, okay? And on Ishtar, Esther, okay? There you go. The other thing is I look for buildings around when they start showing buildings in these scenes. So I start looking, and I want to see what businesses are there because, believe it or not, folks, this has been planned for months. This has probably been planned for a couple of years. And what they do is they plan the perfect place. They set it up. They open a business, a nightclub there, whatever. This is how they do it, all right? And it just so happens that there were 2 businesses that are extremely occultic that are owned by these Masons, okay, very high-level Masons. And it is really funny because one of them I saw was Dunkin' Donuts. And I said, there you go, Dunkin' Donuts. See, people don't know what Dunkin' Donuts is. Dunkin' Donuts in Jewish gematria stands for Freemasonry. Dunkin' Donuts in English gematria stands for Twin Towers. Get it? That's how intertwined these people are. Okay? This is how this works. So, you know, it never ceases to amaze me. I was watching the pictures that the news media put in. You have to look at all these different news outlets and get their film, Scott. And one of them that really got me was I saw the nightclub, and they showed it from a side view. And the door, it was on the side, and the front doors were to the right around there, and you were on the side of the building. And as I looked at that, those doors looked like they were red, like glowing red. And I said, where have I seen that before? Well, it just so happens that I Pet Goat 2, the little cartoon they put out a couple years ago, I Pet Goat 2, that exact piece of footage, the building, the doors, the red glow, the red doors, the whole thing, that exact building, exactly like that picture, is sitting in I Pet Goat 2. Wouldn't you know? Right there. Same building, same doors, everything. So they actually told us what they were going to do in I Pet Goat 2. That's where that happened before. Just like they do with The Simpsons and Family Guy, they tell you before. And here's something else I found extremely interesting. I thought it was really weird. I saw this guy, and his name was Sergeant. Well, it was a special agent in charge. Now, when they assign a guy like that, it's called SAC, the SAC guys. Who's the SAC? Who's SAC who is the SAC out there? Who's the special agent in charge? And those 3 letters are like, big letters, S-A-C, okay? He's SAC. Then I see his name, Paul, W-Y-S-O-P-A-L. Why so pal? I immediately said, this is not a real name. This is a made-up name, because that's what they do. Remember when Scott said when Julie sees something, she sees it with different eyes? Well, that's exactly what I said. When I saw that, I went, that's not a real name. And immediately I went, let's see what they did here. Okay? Let's see what they did. So you take those letters and you write them all out and you start rearranging them. Okay? Because you want to see what they did, and the clue is with the way the letters are placed. When I get these, and I get this all written out, Paul, Weissafall, here's what it spells out. All you see was a psyop. Hello. Come on. What are the chances of that, Scott?
I'm going to have you say that again to make sure people understood what you just said. Please do it again.
Okay, special agent in charge, that would be SAC, and that is what they call the person who is there. It's the SAC officer, which means the special agent in charge. So you take his title is SAC, Paul, the name Paul, and the last name Y, so Pal, W-Y-S-O, P is in Pal, A-L. Why so Pal? When I saw that name, I knew it was not a real name. I knew it. I just knew it. And sure enough, when you take those letters and you try to figure out what they did, that's what your goal is. You take those letters and go, something's not right here. Well, sure enough, you fish just to put some bait on there and go fishing for about 5 seconds and rearrange them letters. What you got was, and this is what it spells out, all you see was a psyop. That's what those letters, special agent in charge, Paul Weissopal, spells out. All you see was a psyop. Come on, you got to help me out here. What are the chances of that?
Well, there's no chance. Probability is 0. I wanted to mention that one of the pictures I have up on the screen for the show is Bush when he was reading the book The Pet Goat, and then they came up to him and told him about 9/11. And so that's part of the staging here. See, this is all tied together. It's just absolutely amazing. I wanted to bring up something. You were talking about the lady that was saying that her son died. There's a connection here, and I want you to listen to me. When I'm working with individuals and there's a manifestation, there can be a time that it's a demon, or there can be a time that it is a multiple personality, an alter. And one of the ways that we tell what's going on, if the person is crying, is there tears? If there are no tears while they're crying, the demon is up. And it's the demon that's crying, not the person. If the human is up, whether it's a multiple personality, wounded little boy or girl, or even possibly the core person, there will be human tears. So anyone that calls themselves an actor generally can produce that, whether they got to put something in their eyes or not. But any time that anyone does this and there's no tears, I've mentioned the other night that how concerned I was that I have seen so many cases now where the individual I was talking to was not the person. It was actually the demon was up. That's pretty serious stuff, let me tell you. And Julie, I wanted to mention too on the 223, the round, which is basically the diameter of a 22, but it has the hyperstatic shock because of the velocity. That if someone takes a headshot from it, their brains will be laid out on the pavement. That's the power behind it, the 223. So everything you said about the wounds and even the pictures I sent you, comparing a 223 to those rounds fired out of an AK-47, either way, You can have a slow-moving bullet like a 45 will do that type of damage, hyperstatic shock, or you have to have a high speed on a smaller bullet. But either way, these people are not going to be moving around. And there you go. So, but the pet goat thing, that's quite amazing. And you were talking about that cartoon and seeing the orange glowing door and all that. And then everything else that you just mentioned with the numbers. Again, when you take statistics, which is an incredible way of analyzing something to try and determine an outcome. I had to do it for Motorola. When it came to processing the variables that determined whether a product was going to be good or not, then the statistic analyst, probability of the product coming from point A to point B and out the door that it was going to be okay, to meet the specs. This was one of the processes that was used to verify that the product would make it. You did this to make sure that the probability was high, so you had a finished product. Well, apparently, these false flags, these hoaxes, are product. These are products of the Illuminati, of the globalists, of the New World Order. And everything that we're seeing is again showing that this is coming from them. Because either way you run the numbers, the probability is too high that this is all false. So how can we deny it, Julie?
True. Well, I think it's really something when you can take a special agent in charge and you can take his name and rearrange it around, and it says all you see was a psyop. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Now, the dude that did the shooting, supposedly Mateen, was 29 years old. If you take his name and 29 and you go to the gematria, it equals 33. Once again, we're at 33 people, okay? The last name of the one girl that was shot, her first name was Patience. That was 555, which is death, death, death. And then her last name was Carter, which works out to 11, a Master Mason number. Okay, Christopher Hansen, his last name Hansen's 555. Okay, Tiara Parker, and like I said, Parker is 33. By the way, she was wearing a necklace with a butterfly, and as was the mom of the supposedly dead son, the Michigan retired police officer, state police, Christine. I'm calling you out, you liar. And she was wearing a butterfly on her shirt as well. This is called MK Ultra Monarch Programming. Okay, that's what it is. It's Monarch Programming, and it is these two people both wore the butterfly symbolism, which I thought was quite telling. And, of course, Juju, when she was interviewing this young lady, she's wearing black and white, which is Illuminati colors, duality, black and white. And when she and then the wife of the shooter was shown getting into a car, and would you know she's wearing a white hoodie with black numbers. Would anybody like to guess the numbers on the back? We have a little saying. In the military, it's actually used, and I'm sure law enforcement and many other places, when you're going to terminate someone, you're going to 86 them. And wouldn't you know, the numbers on the back of her shirt were 86, a white hoodie, 86. There you go. That's another one. And the other thing I thought was really something is when Akira's mom, this is the young lady that supposedly died. She didn't die, you guys. She was telling about her daughter, never a tear, not even a sad look on her face, people. Come on. If I lost my daughter, I don't think I'd get out of bed for a year. I don't think I'd quit crying for at least a year, okay? And this woman is just so, and then the young lady that was her cousin, Tiara, who got shot from the front and went through the back with a .223 round at point-blank range, and she's running around like nothing ever happened. She said, when they asked about her cousin, you know what she said? She got a big old grin on her face and said, she's a hero. She's just a hero. Never a tear, not one. Okay? These people are not passing the sniff test. Okay? And the kid this one kid that was killed, his name was Corey Cannell. There you go with your double C's again. Corey Cannell. That's 33. CC. He was supposed to be a hero, right? This is how his family, no tears, his brother said, he was a hero, man. He'd take a bullet for anybody. Let me tell you something, people. I can count on one hand, and the list is short. I can count 2 people besides my Army friends that would take a bullet for me. Listen, and including them, too. Okay? Nobody, hardly anybody would take a bullet for someone else. You go get in a live gunfire fight and then tell me how brave you are. Let's just see. You might talk some smack, but let's just really see when it comes right down to it. Okay? And this is this guy. And then they have on these shirts that has a numeral, the symbol for the symbol for number, and it says Corey Strong. Just like, remember, they have those Boston Strong shirts. Well, CS, Corey Strong, is 31, reverse is 13. Okay? Listen, you can't make this stuff up, people. You can't. It's like, I know they're setting something up, something big before the election. I do want to say that I believe, in my mind, I believe that either Obama or Trump will be assassinated. I don't believe they're going to die. I believe they're going to live. But I do think there's going to be an assassination attempt, and I do think that it's going to be made to look like they were shot and they did go down and they're in the hospital and they're going to make a miraculous recovery. But I do believe either Trump will go down and Obama will put a stop to the elections because of all this right before the elections, or I believe that Obama will go down and he'll rise again, and Trump will, but I am seeing indications in numerology in these articles that are coming out when it talks about Trump, talks about Barack Obama, and it starts talking about those subjects. I'm seeing telltale signs in their symbolism, their words, their numbers, their dates, everything they're throwing out there. I'm seeing symbols and signs that are pointing me in that direction. So I don't know that it will happen. I'm just saying they are leaving the door open is what they're doing. So, Scott, El Chapo was everybody that's from my neck of the woods, everybody knows who El Chapo is, Shorty Guzman. He's with the Sinaloa cartel. He's like the big guy, but he's actually a CIA operative. Has been for, his whole life. His name, El Chapo, equals 33. Timothy McVeigh was executed when he was 33 years old. Muhammad Atta, who supposedly brought down the South Tower with a plane, he was 33 years old. And by the way, the towers were brought down exactly 33 years after they were built. I mean, Scott, it amazes me how this stuff is so in your face, but yet no one sees it. And I sometimes, the shooter, his birthday is 11/16/16. 11 plus 7 plus 7. It's 11, 1 plus 6, 11, 1 plus 6, and 1 plus 6. So it's 11, 7, 7, 7, 11. And by the way, just so you guys know, 7-11 is actually an occult, occult numbers, and the 7-Eleven stores, you guessed it, they're owned by them. The 7-Eleven. Circle K is another one. I know you guys are going, how does this all connect? But Radio Shack is another one, and I can do gematria and show you how they connect to this whole thing. I mean, it wasn't an accident that they walked. In fact, if you look where the Radio Shack, and I invite you to Google this, Google Earth it, the Radio Shack and the position of the Dunkin' Donuts, there's no way that they would have gone across the street, up the street to the corner, made a right, and kept going down the street when and by the way, there were no ambulances. 0 ambulances on the scene the whole night, okay? So instead of going back around the front of the club where all of the emergency workers were there and the police officers, they went out of the parking lot. They went across the street. Now at this time, all the emergency personnel are now behind them. They walked up to the corner. They made a right, and now once again, the emergency personnel behind them, and they took off up the street in the opposite direction of where all the help was, carrying wounded people. Now, I'm asking you, does that make any sense? There was nobody down there. Then you saw them going the opposite way, wounded people coming from down the other way, going to the Pulse Club. Why would they be going to the Pulse Club when they just ran out of there carrying wounded people and they ran for their lives? You see what I'm saying, Scott? It's just the whole thing stinks.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, you said 555 and 666. When I did law enforcement, 555 meant that it was a homicide. 666 meant that it was a suicide. Those were the police codes. Now, I know that the codes can change from one place to another, but I believe that was what the standard was. And, the UPC codes, the barcodes, I don't know whether you know this or not, but there's a 666. It starts 6, then the numbers that would correlate to the product, another 6, and then the next row numbers that would do, again, with price or stock, and then a final 6. So 666 is incorporated to the UPC barcodes. So, it's in the police calls, it's in barcodes, it's everywhere. So we can just assume that, Julie, in fact, we were talking today about mathematics. We were talking about hexadecimal, binary. I wasn't a processor guy, but I had to deal with it because I dealt with, interfacing. And so we had to learn, code. And I noticed that was all tied together, and you had mentioned that the correlation to do with those codes, right?
That's right. And by the way, 555 is death. Well, 5 is death. Anything and double or triplicate. When it's triplicate, magic is enhanced. So that's the strongest magic that you can have when you triplicate anything. If you repeat a spell 3 times, or it's like I said, the 3 numbers. So 555 is the code for death. And it was just amazing that 2 of those people actually had in their gematria 555, 555 in their name. And so, but yes, binary code and hexadecimal, that is right. It is all tied in. And I will tell you something else. The symbols that you guys don't really, you just know they're symbols, right? You just see them and you go, yeah, whatever, this and that. But the infinity symbol, the triquetra, all these symbols appear in your DNA, okay, in your cells and in your DNA. You will see these symbols, okay? The Tav is also in your DNA, in your symbols, and found in your genome sequence, okay? So they are using these symbols in the occult manner, and they're all related to this binary mathematics. And I'm going to do a show with Scott on that to do with frequency, but also to do with what I have found about these. It's the Fibonacci numbers, the Fibonacci sequence. I'm pretty sure I found something there, and I know I found something there in that when I was doing working with those numbers. So I know I found something to do with a vortex or a spiral, and I'm talking donuts. Okay, it's the life. It's the secret of life. This donut, and I'm going to explain more about that on another show because it's absolutely amazing. This is what Lucifer's figured out. This is exactly the entrance into heaven. This is the whole thing, all in a nutshell. And if you go and start reading up on the Fibonacci sequence, you'll at least have an idea of what when I talk about it, what I'm saying, because it's kind of deep in mathematics. But trust me, it'll be worth it for you to hear this because a lot of this stuff is going to make a whole lot more sense when you start seeing the very root cause of why all this got started in the first place, that they want to replace and they want to be able to create the DNA and the heaven and the whole thing here. But Scott, it absolutely has everything to do with binary code. It absolutely does. And, when you go, you know about that kind of stuff. Anybody that does anything like that, if you ever have time to call me and talk to me, maybe we can do a 3-way with him, Scott. You could send Scott your information. I'm interested in asking you some questions because I have the occult numerology and the occult numbers down, but I need to ask you some questions that I think you'll be able to answer for me because I think it connects to binary code. Maybe, Scott, we could find someone that could help us with that.
Yeah, that wasn't my forte. I was just forced to learn it because I was part of the job. And Reeves, Louisiana, 1960, they were issued the area code 666, and they finally got rid of it in 2007. Now, supposedly that code, the area code, doesn't belong to anybody, but once in a while, people will report that they get a phone call that doesn't seem to answer, and the area code is 666. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. If anyone has any information, I'd like to hear about that as well. So, well, just keep going, Julie. I know you got some other things there. We're on a roll. We got another hour. Go ahead. I lose you? You on mute?
Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping that people will start to see this stuff because I know that we have some really, really smart listeners, and I know that they listen to us all the time. And there's several of you who've actually written me and texted me and said, "Oh my gosh, I was at the store and I saw this label and look what I found." So you're starting to look around and see things. And one of the reasons somebody said to me, it was a church person, said to me, "Why do we have to learn all this? What good is this doing for us?" Well, there's a million reasons I could state for that, but let me give you one. Do you really want to be an idiot that's screaming, "Take all the guns away," and you're flipping out with fear because of all these killings, mass shootings? So fear is what they're trying to instill, grips you, and you start getting freaked out, and you're praying against all these killings that never happened, and you're buying into the lie, and so you're getting on the same page with them. You're jumping on the bandwagon to take things away from people that, trust me, my guns have never shot a person. I've never even pointed my gun at a human being. Okay? I just hunt. That's it. That's all we do. So you're going to punish people based on lies. And I always feel that if you know the truth will set you free. And I'm trying to educate you guys to separate yourself from the matrix. I want you to see that everything you've ever known is a lie. And I keep saying that. Everything that you know is a lie. And I don't want you to fall for something in the end because you believe that some part of this system might be right. The church system, whatever it is, the government system, the military, the police department, they're all Masons, man. Okay? Look at police departments. It's in my husband's badge, my husband's uniforms. It's got the 5-pointed star. They all have it. Dude, where do you think that came from? 5-pointed star, Masons. So the thing is that if you know the truth and you understand what's happening, you can separate yourself and be ye separate from the world. Truly be ye separate. You're not going to jump on the bandwagon. You're not going to be subject to fear. You don't have anything to fear. You know they're trying to demonize Muslims. Not that Muslims don't do bad things. But this John Brennan is talking about ISIL and ISIS and all this other stuff, and he's a CIA director. He is ISIS. ISIS is the CIA and the Israeli Mossad. That's who they are. These are agents that are pretending to be wild, crazy Muslims. That's what they're doing. Because they want you to hate ISIS, and they want you to fear ISIS. Now they're going to say we have to hate Muslims and fear Muslims. Okay, you know, I'm not real crazy about them and their religion, and the ones that I know where I stand. So that's that. You come to my house to do anything to me, you're going down, all right? I'm taking you out. Until then, we live in peace. Okay, don't put your stuff off on me. I don't think Muslims should be even allowed in this country because their political ideologue does not in any way, shape, or form mesh with our Constitution of the United States and our Bill of Rights. So would you let Nazis come in this country? Well, they're building Nazi camps. Well, but they have a right to believe what they want. See, this is what it is. All of these groups, what they do, the Illuminati, all of them, they have a political agenda, world power agenda. All of them do. Go back in time. Okay? Alexander the Great, name them. They all do. And what they do is they add religion. They add a form of worship and religion because they know that people were created to worship. We were made that way by our Creator, to want to worship. So Lucifer provides plenty of ways to do that. Well, these guys know that. So they play on that psychological part of you, and they create a political system, and then they add this tint of religion. They add this God into it that has nothing to do with what they really want, but that's how they get people to get on board and do what they want. So you have all of these people that are running around chopping people's heads off for this God that doesn't even exist. But if you look at their Quran and read it, which I can tell you it's very hard to read because it's very, you can tell that someone who was mentally retarded wrote that. I mean, that's the best I can say. If Satan is behind it, which I believe he is, he's mentally retarded because none of it makes any sense. It's a bunch of junk that just has there's no concept, there's no principle, there's no moral to the story. It's just pointless drivel, okay? But they think this book is so holy. So they've got these morons thinking this book is so holy that if you burn it, you must die. Okay, but what are they really after? World domination. That's what they're after. People to be subjects, slaves, dominate. So they just added that religious aspect in it because they know people have it within their DNA, built into their body. God wrote the laws in our heart to be worshiping something. Okay, we're supposed to worship him, but you know how that goes. So, you know, Scott, I find this to be over and over again that they are taking this and they are completely, they're polluting all of these supposed shootings, all this stuff. They bring in, she brought in the Muslim factor, she brought in the gay and lesbian thing, she brought in assault weapons, she brought in, by the way, the black girl that supposedly got shot and was up running around, bending over, getting in trash bags, pulling out things. When she sat there and they asked her a question, Scott, you got to hear this. This is unreal. This girl says, well, what did the gunman say, if anything? Did he say anything? Get this, you guys. She says, well, he asked me if there were any black people in the stalls. Did you guys just hear what I said? If there's any black people. In other words, he was going to kill them because they were black. Right? Did you get that? And then he said, it's nothing personal, you know. Now, a shooter is going to stop and say this. There's a shooter. Believe me, folks, the shooter there was no shooter. But if there was, he wouldn't have said that. Okay, that's just not the way it works. So he says, then he says, well, it's nothing personal, you know. I'm just sick and tired of America, and I want to send a message to America to stop bombing my people in my country. And she says he wants America to stop bombing his people in Iraq, his country, Iraq. Does anybody know why that statement is completely ludicrous? Because when you lie, you have trouble keeping up with your lies. Does anybody want to venture a guess as to where this guy's from? By the way, he had green blue eyes, and his dad has blue eyes. And when they interviewed his dad, his picture was in a paper. Did anybody happen to see where that interview took place, the paper that it was in? Can anybody say Kabul? Does anybody know where that is? Another question. Where does it say in this man's bio that his family is from? He's from New York City, by the way. He's not from the Middle East. But where his people are? Anybody take a guess? Because it's not Iraq. And this was a lie. She screwed up. You know, you can only tell so many lies before you start messing up and not getting it right. And, of course, what she did was get it wrong. His family, his roots, Afghanistan, not Iraq. And she swore this statement to the police. This was a sworn statement. that he said Iraq. And he's actually from Afghanistan, his family. Scott, I smell stinking lie.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about not getting involved or thinking that we don't have to do anything. I've brought this up before. In 1965 in Indiana, Sylvia Marie Likens was a young girl that was given in the care of an older woman to take, her parents left, and so she was given over to this woman to take care of her. And the woman that was taking care of her was, whatever her problem was, she ended up abusing this young girl over a very long period of time, extinguishing lit cigarettes, beating her, tying her up, burning her with scalding water, rubbing salt into her wounds, forcing her to eat feces. And while she was bound in the basement, she would cry out. And the neighbor, when this all came to a head because the girl died, when it all came to a head and came to court, and the neighbor was on the stand, they asked, "Did you ever hear anything coming out of the house?" And she said, "Yes, I would hear cries coming out of the basement." And well, it was the prosecutor or whoever it was, he said, "Well, didn't you do anything?" And she said, "Well, who am I to judge?" So she knows someone's being tortured. She knows someone's being, in a bad condition. And yet she uses that phrase, "Who am I to judge?" I just want everyone to understand that, we have a responsibility to understand the truth. And when we find out what's really going on that is out of order or is a violation against God's people or against anyone, a child, that we have to do something. And when you know that something is not right, such as the information that Julie's telling us shows us the false flag, shows us the lies, and so what they're doing is they're setting the stage to take our guns away. Where's the church? Where was the church during the abortion? Where was the church during the Supreme Court ruling for same-sex marriage? We're standing down and we're allowing the enemy to literally just take us. And so where do we go with all this stuff, right? So there's going to be more, and more will come out that this is fake, and it'll get, washed, it'll get, under the rug, just like Sandy Hook. There's lawsuits out right now with Sandy Hook, and what's amazing is that the proof that it was false, there's still a lawsuit against the gun manufacturer of the supposable gun that was used. So this is if we lose our guns, we lose the ability to defend ourselves. And if any Christian thinks that that's okay, then you're not worshiping the same Jesus. Because I can assure you that when we are ready for the slaughter, we are no use to this world. And our job is to go out and make disciples, to heal the sick, and do those things that I've been preaching about for a long time. And if we're in bondage, if we're put into a situation that we can't do it, then evil has won. And if the gates of hell are not to prevail against Christ's church, then obviously then the churches aren't of Christ. I'm sorry. The gloves come off because the time is so short. The time is so short. We're all restless in our spirit. I had somebody show up today that, and I just told them, I go, look, everyone feels the same way. It isn't just you. We know something's wrong. We know they're going to do something. And you know what? These things comes in threes, like, just like you mentioned, Julie, with threes. Always 3 airplane crashes, 3 this, 3 that. Well, let's just see what happens next. All right, Julie, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think after everything I've said thus far, anyone could doubt that what I'm telling you is true. I just don't see how you could think that it was a real event after everything I just told you. And I also want to say to any of these supposed Christian truthers out there that are on these radio whoever, you know who you are. I don't need to say your name. I really believe that some of you were, and just maybe misled, just didn't know. But there's some of you who I can actually say are pretty clever in a couple of areas. And I know your background because I've looked you up to see who you are, where you are, and how you got where you are. And there's a couple of you, one of you that likes to play stupid, and you're not stupid at all. And so I just want you to know that I know who you are now. Thank God Scott called me and gave me information that you guys were stupid enough to comment on this particular shooting and say that it was an actual shooting and that it all happened. Because you know what? As long as you people have been in this thing, this truther movement, and with what you two know, you know that it was a lie. You know it was fake. And the only reason you're saying it really happened is because you belong to them. So the line is drawn. And now I know who you are. And you are God's enemy. Because you said this was true. And I sat there right now and I pulled this entire story apart. You know what? I could go on for 3 more hours about the entire scene. How it was completely, man, I could go back and start watching, and I mean down to the streets. I gave you the names of the streets, man. A goddess and 33 orange, the color of the Illuminati. Come on. And pulse, what does it mean? Is he alive or is he dead? Is he alive or is he dead? Come on, people. And you know, the fact that you are telling people that this thing actually happened after every single, I don't know how you guys are so blind with what you say you know. You get on those radio shows and you just blab away about everything you know and who you know. You know, one of you almost had me fooled. But you know what? I had a gut instinct, something right with you, and I know now you belong to Satan. You belong to Lucifer, and you are not my brothers because you know that this whole thing was a hoax. I have given enough evidence tonight. Come on, Special Agent in Charge, Paul Weisapow. All you see was a psyop. Come on. Some of us didn't fall off of a turnip truck yesterday, okay? And you just don't give some of us the respect that we are smarter than that. Come on, I may not be a genius, but I didn't, come on. I wasn't born yesterday. And Scott, these people, in my opinion, are deadly. They're more deadly than these Luciferians because these guys are pretending like they belong to the Jesus. These guys are soiling the good name of Jesus by lying, outright lying to people out there, and they have people who want to be following Jesus, but they have those people hooked listening to their shows, listening to all their lies they're pumping out, and they're going to sit there and tell people that this was real. You know what? If I didn't give you enough information tonight, and I'll tell you something else that struck me really weird, is there's a man named David Gergen, okay? This guy's a member of Bohemian Grove. If you go back and you look up Alex Jones, David Gergen, just type it in, you're going to see where Alex Jones confronted him years ago on the street and said, sir, I know you're a member of Bohemian Grove. And he goes, I'm a very happy member of Bohemian Grove. And I love those people that go there. They're a bunch of good people that go there. I know you love them because you're over there, having sex with all of them, too, because that's what all them people do when they go to Bohemian Grove. He was being interviewed by Wolf Blitzer. You will not believe what this man said. When he said this, I said, Jesus Christ, God the Father in heaven, thank you for giving me that. You know what? This is what Jesus does. He makes these guys screw up just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, and he's doing that, you guys, as a favor to us. He's showing us. He's saying, I'm giving you clues. Can't you see? Spell his name out. It says all you can see was a psyop. Go Jesus is trying to tell us. He's giving us clues. This guy said he was speaking on the shooting in Orlando, And he says, well, the assassination in Orlando. And all of a sudden you saw that look on his face. Oh, crap. Did I just say what I thought I said? Oh, crap. And he had to back up, start over. Well, the shooting, If you can find that, anybody out there, please send it to me because I thought they scrubbed it. I think they scrubbed it, Scott. I can't get it. But that's what he said, the assassination. Oh, crap. So Jesus is working. God is working. God the Father, the creator of the universe, he's making these guys screw up here and there and giving us ridiculous names like Why So Pal. Come on. Who ever heard of a stupid name like that? By the way, anytime you see the name Horn, okay, Van Horn, Elkhorn, any of that, the last name of Horn, or a city named Elkhorn, all of those names, go back and do your homework, my friends. Those names, Horn, always go back to the horned god. And that's where they came from. Okay, that's where they all came from. And you'll notice that a lot of people in these false flags, they'll go and they'll interview somebody, and his name will just happen to be James Van Horn. Okay? I mean, it's amazing. And I'll tell you something else. When I was watching the footage, there was this fat white guy that's going the wrong way while he's carrying a wounded person. He stops just long enough to turn around for the cameras and get his 2 seconds of fame, right? Well, he was wearing a flag T-shirt, red, white, and blue. And immediately, I agreed with this guy that he did this video, and I was like, oh, yeah. They said, we're going to see his mug again. He's wearing the flag shirt. They're going to interview him. Watch. This was the first day of the shooting. He goes, watch. He's going to be interviewed. And then later in, you look at this whole footage coming out. Where is he? He's across the street, and you see him with the flag shirt over there by all the EMS workers. Now, cops and EMS everywhere, and they're going to let that guy stand around and mill around in all these supposed wounded people with the law enforcement. I can tell you right now, I would have taken that body and said, all right, get out. All right, you guys need to get him out of here, escort him out of here. And the cops would have taken him away from everything, one cop, and would have said, do you have a statement? I need to get a statement, blah, blah, blah. And they would have interviewed him way over there somewhere. And they would not have allowed him to stay on the scene. That's not the way it works, okay? There he was again across the street, and I said, you watch. That's the guy they're going to have on TV. Lo and behold, Christopher Hansen shows up on TV today, and there he is with his flag shirt. There he is again, and they interviewed. I knew they were going to pick him out because he turned around. He got his 5 seconds of fame. I said, that guy will be back on TV. You watch. They're going to interview him. Sure enough, today he pops his face up. And everything he said was a lie. Scott, it was like listening, going, I cannot believe this man is just lying. They put this guy down and let this supposed wounded person get up and do whatever they wanted. But if they've been shot with a .223, they're not going to get up and go anywhere. And why did you put the guy down, and then the other guy that was one of the carriers is jumping up and down and laughing and turns to the cameras as they're filming them and is laughing and smiling and, hey, peace out, man, check me out. Because it was all an act. They were acting. They were crisis actors. All it was a drill, a hoax, the whole thing. Everybody was laughing. Police officers were standing around doing nothing. Listen, my husband was in an 8.5-hour gun battle. Not one Border Patrol, Sheriff's Department, Police Department, CHP, not one of them was standing around doing nothing. One shooter, and everybody was busy. Fire department was there, everything. And every person in there was busy with this shooter on the ground. So it's, I've been to disaster drill. I've been on the disaster team for years. That's not the way it works. What you saw was a disaster drill. That was not a legit, nothing was legit. They went the wrong way. It's like, hey, dude, Oh, you're going the wrong way. You're going back down to the club. You're carrying somebody from where? Where did they come from? Toward the club, because that's where the camera crew with the green screens were shooting. I'll give you another one. Christine, you Michigan State Police, that you tried to act all stupid on TV. Okay, she tried to act like they were outside, right? They supposedly were filming outside. You know, I got a piece of advice for you guys, Christine and Matt Lauer and all you people. I'm a nobody, and even I know this. Christine, you had your glasses on, honey, and I could see all the green screen cameras in front of you. And I happen to know what those tall lights are and what those cameras are. Those are green screen cameras, dear. And what was behind you was actually a green screen. You have to take your glasses off, Christine, because we could see all of the green screen cameras reflecting off of your glasses, dear. So the next time you want to lie and pretend you're outside when you're actually standing in front of the cameras that do the green screening, you need to take your glasses off. So that's what happened. And, Scott, I could have fallen over laughing when I saw that happen.
You know, I do chroma key. That's what green screen is, or blue screen. And shadowing, lighting is very important, and something like glasses would be a problem. You would have thought they'd been on top of that. You know, this lets us know how far down the rabbit hole we are. The fact that, like Weisenpohl, or whatever you want to call this guy, or whatever he claims his name is, that they're this blatant about their names, but they know people are going to figure it out. And so, as you mentioned today, and coming in agreement, that they've gone so far that they know they're at the point of no return, and so they're really just running through the mechanism. They're just running through to, you know, as they do for their occult practices, knowing that really few people can do anything. And, you know, the other thing about chroma key or green screen is not only lighting is important, but the distance from the camera is important. I'd have to look at that video. I bet I can pick it apart, because to do really good chroma key is an art. And if you're doing it on the fly, there's always going to be a mistake somewhere that reveals that. You know, Julie, I think also, and I want everyone to understand that what Julie was just talking about when she was kind of making a statement about stupidity. There are people who are in the alternative media that you listen to, that Julie and I have great concerns about. We've had concerns for a long time. And to bring some of the information out might be a bit shocking to you, and so we're going to keep an eye on things. And what I mean is that we're going to be revealing a few things, but we want you to understand that things are not as they appear all the way around. Satan runs this world. And we've grown up in this society, we've grown up in the church, we've grown up in whatever, and we've been surrounded by this evil. We've been surrounded by the lie. And I've mentioned before that we've been in the lie so long, we don't know what truth really looks like. We think we do. I mentioned how you think if you're going to be deceived, you can see it off in the distance, you know, like a rider coming at you. But you need to also understand, like Tuesday night. All right, I'm going to do the show, and I'm going to name it "Don't Believe Everything That You Think," because the psyops, the brainwashing, the Monarch, the MK Ultra, those things of psychotronics have literally got us thinking in a direction that we can't see the truth right in front of us. And so what we're really trying to focus on here is for you to take a really strong, hard look at anything that happens that they present on TV as fact, to understand that it is not fact. That there's something behind every bit of this. And, you know, here we've had Obama in, you know, going on 8 years, And we've all known that his birth certificate was fake. There's information all over the place that shows that it is, but yet no one will touch it with a 10-foot pole. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who I was actually under for a while, went back in the 90s, tells you how long ago I was in, that he seems to be the only one that had enough to, cojones to go out and face this guy. And, of course, he's dealing with all kinds of federal accusations. And, he's getting up there in age, the sheriff of Maricopa County there in Arizona. And he can't really be there much longer. And what will be interesting is the next president. Now, Julie, the other thing is that the Arizona Territory was with New Mexico as a territory at one time, and then when it split up, the first governor, he's buried in a pyramid at the Papago Buttes there in Tempe, Arizona, by the Phoenix Zoo, overlooking the river bottom where the Hohokam or Hohokam, however you want to say that, where their tribes were, which were some of the oldest ones. But there it shows you, the first governor of Arizona way back. That shows you how far back all this stuff goes. I mean, it's just been here for forever. Like I said, I told Julie today that I was only going to start with World War II on the lies and the false flags, because if I keep going further back, I would have taken another half hour. And I know that she had so much information that I didn't want to do that. This is how long this has been going on, and so why would we believe anything that's brought before us? All right, we got about 20 minutes, Julie. You want to get into something else? What do you want to do here?
Well, and I want to remind anyone, if you are a follower of Jesus, I'm directing this show to people who are not. If you listen and you are, then you're one of the people who actually, most of you have come out of those brainwashing institutions, and you guys are actually looking for truth, okay? And the people who might listen to this show who are not followers of Jesus, that's the people I want them to see that I'm not just picking on secular media. I'm not just picking on the secular media. I'm showing every single, and remember what Scott said. Julie sees things with a different pair of eyes. I don't see things the way you guys do because I grew up in the occult. That's been my life, is in the occult. So I see things totally different than you, and I see things that I can see a whole other story behind the story. And so there are people out there that are secular, and I want them to know this stuff that I'm talking about is even in these so-called Christian truth or radio shows. I want the secular people that are not followers of Jesus to know I see the lies in them too. I see them holding up these things as truth, coming out and saying, oh, this really happened. And I want these people to know I don't care if you say you follow Jesus or not. I'm calling you out on the carpet, CNN, MSNBC. I don't care what show you talk on. If you're saying this really happened and you're telling people this was not a staged event, and I don't care if you call yourself a follower of Jesus or not, you're a liar. You're a damn liar, and you're lying to these people. And you know what? I didn't get on this radio show to be freaking popular and happy joy. That is not what I did. I got on this show because you know what? I grew up in that life, and I know what it is, and I can see it. Every time they do something like this, I just sit there, and all I do is just pick it apart, the whole thing. Oh, Orange Street, wouldn't you know? Oh, Ishtar, Esther Street. Oh, there you go. It's just so obvious to me because I don't see anything that the public sees. So the Holy Spirit told me, you're going to tell these people what you know. You're going to go and you're going to expose this stuff. And I don't care if you say you follow Jesus. If you're doing it, I'm going to expose you too. And to the secular people that I'm talking to, the atheists, the witches, the whoever you are, the New Agers, I'm not going to just pick on the media that you can see are a bunch of sellouts. I'm going to tell you both sides, and that includes the so-called truth movement that's supposed to be following Jesus. Okay, I pull no punches, and the people who listen to the show regularly know that is exactly how I am. And if it hurts your feelings, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? The truth can be shocking, but you better get off the shock wave real fast and start getting on the wave of truth, because there are so many deceptions going on. And my expertise is not much. I'm not a super educated person. You know, I'm just like a nobody, really. But my education, my expertise is in the occult. I am an occult forensics expert, and I grew up in that world. I've been in the occult most of my life, and I can see what they're doing. All I have to do is glance. And all I have to do is just glance at a scene. I can just watch those cop cars everywhere, and I can just watch for 3 minutes and go, this thing's a hoax. Who's believing this? This is insane. That guy's not hurt. The tourniquet's in the wrong place. Oh, well, you know. I mean, it's insanity that anybody would believe that kind of stuff is true. But you see, they've distanced you from who you are. You know, my ancestors hunted with bows and arrows. We hunt with bows and arrows, my family. My ancestors did that. Your ancestors, all the way back, they did the same thing. They had to hunt with weapons, whatever they had, the Vikings, whoever you come from. And now you're so far removed from that life that you really don't understand any of it. So when somebody says that person got shot with a .223 round at close range, and she's walking around and bending over and opening trash bags and spreading her arms out, which she wouldn't be able to do, you just think, okay. But so that's where Scott and I come in, and he knows a lot about ballistics, and my husband's an expert in ballistics, by the way, and has had to testify in court many times with this stuff. So, and by the way, I told you he got shot in the line of duty, and he didn't move for 6 months. Okay, so 60 staples and his whole gut's out of his body. This was a .38. I mean, it wasn't even a high caliber weapon. So this kind of stuff is things that I look at, and that it just so happens to be the little knowledge that I do have. And so I want to bring this to you, and I want you to go back with renewed eyes, and I want you to look at that story again. They released a story today out of the 50 dead people, that they only released the names of 33. By the way, Christine, the green screen queen, I'll call her, was crying that this is yesterday, okay, after all these days. She said that no one, this was the next morning, during the night, they were clearing these people out, that the cops couldn't tell who was who. They couldn't identify any of these people. And she was getting interviewed by Matt Lauer and saying they couldn't identify my son. They couldn't identify anybody because they were shot up so bad. Wait a second. Last time I checked, you have to have an ID to get in a bar. And so I checked into the policy of the Pulse. You have to be 18 or older, and you do indeed have to have an ID to get in that club. So you're going to tell me that the next day came, they transferred these bodies to the hospital, morgue, whatever, wherever they went to the hospital, and they still couldn't identify any of them, didn't know who was who. But every person that was shot had their ID in their pocket. Are you seeing the inconsistencies here? You can't. I told my husband about the shooting, and I said it happened in a bar, and even the police couldn't tell you who was who. My husband said, first thing, it happened in a bar. What do you mean they don't know who's who? All you got to do is look at their IDs. You don't get into a bar without an ID. What kind of rocket science is that? The first thing my husband said. And he's been a cop his whole life. So you see the stupidity of Christine, the green screen queen? She's sitting there talking and saying how she's outside, and the green screen equipment, the cameras, are all across her glasses right in front of her. You can see the whole studio in her glasses. The whole studio is looking at you. So everything in front of her, that entire studio setup, was reflecting in her glasses. So, Scott, when I see these things and I pay attention to detail, I look at these little things, You see one lie after another. She's outside, but yet she's in the studio, and all those studio cameras, all the green screen lights and cameras are all right there in her glasses. And she's saying, you see what I'm saying, Scott? You cannot make this stuff up, brother.
Right, and we also know that they will allow people to die, too. Obviously, 9/11 was such a case, people jumping out of the window and those who were in the building and the surrounding areas. Right, so there are victims.
No one died here. I'm telling you, nobody did.
Right, so the point of it is we have to still look at, regardless of whatever the situation is, and go from there. And for those cases when people do perish, this is a crime against the citizens of the United States, of America. And we should absolutely be, incensed and upset and angry and mad and require justice for such actions against us. All right, what I'm going to do here is just remind everyone that, again, Tinfoil Hat Club, that I'm going to be trying to finish up that website. If you've gone to, you notice it's just up. There's not a lot of content in it. I've got time now. I'm going to start filling that, especially with the research that I've been doing on the ELF psychotronics issue. And again, for Tuesday, and then I'm going to be doing that show. And I'm probably going to make a YouTube video out of it as well. So I'm just to remind everyone of that. And again, the normal show, Scott Hensler Network on Blog Talk, but I do Tuesdays and Thursdays, more of a Christian biblical point of view instead of just the open forum that we've got here. And then, of course, the old shows, we've got about 245 plus shows that are now uploaded to gimbling.com. And again, you can access all those from scotthensler.org. And so there you go. And again, thank you for the support of what we're doing here. And also, I found out today I had backed out of Facebook because of all the stuff that was being sent to me. And I had someone tell me today that actually my profile might still be up. So if you've been trying to email or contact me through that, I'm not there. So I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to go back and probably have to, initiate it again in order to cancel it. Of course, that's the way they work, right? So that's what I'll do. All right, Julie, you want to we take about 5 minutes and just close out, because there's some other stuff coming up, the sacrifices, remind everyone again, the rituals, and then I'll finish it out. Go ahead.
All right, summer solstice is the 21st of June. That is a very huge Illuminati, Luciferian, occult night. The night of the 20th is when the sacrifices will commence that night. The week leading up to that, they have this whole week are demon rebels. They are actually having the worst of the nastiest sexual perversion you can think of every night. And they are sacrificing people. This is something that's done right now. A lot of the Satanist groups are actually doing the rituals, the cleansing rituals on their sacrifices to get them ready for the night of the 20th to be sacrificed when the clock turns to the 21st. The summer solstice is when supposedly the goddess gives birth. May Day, May 1st, that whole thing was when the goddess is pregnant. And then it's a she's only pregnant for a month and a half. Not bad, huh? Month and a half. And she gives birth the 21st, summer solstice. And don't forget that this is Prince William's birthday as well. That's the Illuminati, Luciferian, reptilian, sewer lizard family over there in London. So this is what they're doing this week, and that's what they're doing on the 21st. A lot of life is going to be lost. And they're all children. This is who they sacrifice, is children. And the terror that these children go through when they are taken out, their objective is to terrorize these children to almost death and then kill them. And they are raped, they are tortured, and all of this before death. And it is a horrific night, and these are the people that are the leaders of every nation on the earth. They lead every nation. And these are the people that you call your presidents, your senators, your congressmen, your kings, your queens, that's what these people are. I mean, Obama's raped and murdered over 300 kids. I'd like to see him say he hasn't with a straight face. I'll rip his mask right off his face. This is the thing. When you're in Jesus, you guys, for you unbelievers, when you have the Holy Spirit and you are in Jesus, man, I'm telling you, I would command that mask to come off him in 2 seconds, and his reptilian nature would be bare for everybody to see. You see, that's why they have to get rid of the people who believe in Jesus, because we have the power to take their mask off. We have the power to show them, show the world who they really are. And that's why they want to get rid of us, because you know what? That there is nothing, no one stronger than Christ. And Christ in me is stronger than anything outside of me. So this is one reason that I do want you guys to get saved, and I want you to follow Jesus. I'll be honest, I do, because you know what? There's safety. Even if you lose your life, you still will immediately, your spirit, soul goes to heaven, and you're with Jesus. So, yes, I the purpose of the show is, yes, I do want to win you over. I do, because I want you to be safe, and the only safety and the only place of safety that you will have is in the arms of Jesus Christ, and that's the truth. So, Scott, I just hope everybody will pray against all of these things that are happening every night right now, and on the 20th, that night to midnight is when this horrific things start happening all over the world, and it will be timed. So we really, really need to hit that hard with prayer. And I just
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Right. All right, Julie. Thank you.
Hi, talk to you tomorrow.